Hello, everyone. Welcome to Winged Horse Designs. I'm Donna Goodwin. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator located in Brookings, South Dakota. Today, I'm going to demonstrate this card using floating strips. It's really a lot of fun and super easy to do. So I'm going to switch cameras real quick. Here we go. Here's a better view of it. So you just take, and it's great for small strips of cardstock that we always have left over, or patterned paper. So with this one, I just took some patterned paper and I cut it in varying strips. You don't have to create an exact pattern. You could be very random with it. You can use any shape you want. I'm using some around the bend dies to create a curve and mounting it directly on the back. So it kind of looks like it's directly on the card, but if you look at it from the side, you can see that it's lifted off of the card just a bit, creating that floating look. But again, you can use it with any kind of a shape. Here's one I did a couple months ago. For those who subscribe to my newsletter, I send out a free tutorial once a month. I'm late this month for those of you who subscribe to that. I apologize. This one, I just used a circle on it, and I used one sheet, just a solid sheet. This isn't the sheet, obviously, but I used just a solid sheet and cut it into strips. And it's a great way to get a little bit more use out of what you're doing. Here I used a circle. You could use a square. You could use any shape you like. But for this one, we're going to just do kind of a curved piece on the end. So I'm going to set this up in the corner. I have chosen today to use the Inked and Tiled stamp set. It's a stamp set out of the new catalog. It's got these lovely botanical pieces in it and some wonderful sentiments. Plus, I love the font in these sentiments. And I decided, we can never have too many birthday cards, although you can never have too many thank you cards or just a note card either. But I'm going to use the happy birthday, and I'm going to use just this piece right here. And then to catch this curve, I'm going to bring in this piece here with the leaves. And when we die cut that out, we'll get that curve that we're after, and then we'll just trim these pieces off of it. So when you're working on this, you need your window sheet and your strips to be just slightly larger than what you're going to need for the piece that you're going to cut out. And then I brought in Stylus Shapes, and we're going to use this circle here to cut out our happy birthday. I'll set those up in that corner. And you won't need to write these down, but these are the dimensions for the pieces that I chose to use. I'm using Lost Lagoon. It's one of the returning in colors, and it's now on our core line. It's a lovely bluish green. And this measures 5.5 inches by 8.5 inches, scored in the middle at 4 1/4. Going to give that a good crease with my bone folder and then set it aside. We're going to do a little bit of stamping on it later. You'll need a neutral color for the inside. I'm using Very Vanilla. It measures 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches. You'll need a piece of scrap for your happy birthday. The most important part of floating, The most important part for floating strips is to have some window sheet. You don't necessarily have to purchase window sheet, although it certainly helps. Let's say you're running low on window sheet or you don't have a piece the right size. Every stamp set that's a photopolymer stamp set comes with a sheet. It's a little bit different weight, but it has a clear plastic sheet in it that works perfect for something like this. Or if you have young children or grandchildren in the house, you know how all those toys are wrapped in that plastic that's nearly impossible to get into? Keep it in bigger sheets and cut it up and use it as well. So I just took some different pieces from the pattern paper that I'm going to use and cut them in varying pieces. And then I've already put tear and tape on the back, and we'll talk about that in a moment. The pattern paper I chose to use is the new Inked Botanicals. And this is a 6x6 sheet, so you get 4 sheets each of 12 different designs. So you have some, you can see which designs here that I've chose to use on this card. You've got This one that's got some pretty flowers in it, and on the back it's got some dots. And this one has some Lost Lagoon and Pool Party in it. Kind of looks like wheat here on the back. A nice just random pattern and a random pattern on the back. So just some pretty colors that are really, and some floral patterns here and some geometrics on the back. So just some really nice different patterns. And here's the patterns I didn't use yet that kind of look like stems and leaves. And I thought that those were, I can't wait to use these as well. And then on the back sides, we have kind of some geometrics and some texture pieces on these. So just some really, really fun patterns in that Inked Botanicals Designer Series paper. And then I'm going to finish my card off. I apologize for the lighting. It's kind of changing rapidly while I'm recording this. We have a cold front coming through here, and for the last few days we've had a lot of haze with the jet stream bringing the smoke down from the Canadian wildfires. So these are the Sparkle Gems. They're also new, and they come in white, black, and champagne, and they're like really pretty and really sparkly. So let's start with, I like to stamp first, so let's go ahead and stamp, and then we'll get to what you really came here to see, and that's the strips. So I'm just going to bring in a piece of scrap paper to protect my work surface. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp the front of my card with our botanical stem, and I'm going to use Versamark. I just want a watermark look to it, just to give me something on the background. So I'm just going to stamp a few of those. Let's go a little bit higher. And while you can't really see, it's starting to show up. As it dries, it'll get a little bit darker. And I'm going to go a little bit higher with this one, but you can go randomly any way you like. And this last one that I'm doing over here really isn't going to show up underneath these strips, but there's just a hint of it as it darkens up that you can see. So I'll put the Versamark away. And then I'm going to bring in two other colors to do the inside of the card. And on the inside of the card, I just simply put a flower. So I'm going to use a Post-it note. They were right here. Here they are. I'm just going to use some Post-it notes to cover up my flower. And because I was using Versamark, I'm not even going to bother to clean it first. But I don't want to get over that stem. And I'm going to ink up my stems in Lost Lagoon. Now you notice this is the old style. I tend to keep my ink pads in my cardstock after they retire. And this time I'm really happy that I did, because when they did the color refresh, I was able to just go to the basement, pull them out of storage, and put them back in my line and save my money for something else, like stamp sets. And then I'm just going to kind of use this just as a little bitty guide. And I'm going to ink up these flowers in Calypso Coral. And you notice I'm not even setting them down on the stem. I'm just kind of holding that there to keep me from mixing the two colors. And I think we'll go about this high. And so we have a nice little flower on the inside. We'll set that aside. Let's go ahead and stamp our happy birthday in Calypso Coral. I'm actually going to stamp two of them, just in case I don't get my circle lined up just right. I have an extra. And if I don't need it, then I have an extra for some other card. Okay, so let's set that aside and let's work on our strips. I'm going to bring in a nice clean grid paper here to be able to see what I'm doing. And while you may not be able to see the window sheet on the grid, there's a lot of different ways you can pattern this up, but just kind of play with it. And I am going to actually follow a pattern this time, but you certainly don't have to. So I'm going to take this top one, and I'm just going to peel these back part of the way. Just like you would if you had a really big piece. And I'm going to, oh, that's very difficult for you to see. Let's try. There we go. I think you might. I'm just going to line this one up right on the edge. And pull these strips out. I recommend using tear and tape when you're trying to adhere to window sheet. It just simply holds better, or use a double-sided tape. You definitely won't want to use liquid glue when you're trying to adhere to a window sheet. Now this one, my tear and tape's a little bit, you could put it down the center, but I really wanted it to stick really well. So I'm going to peel one off, and now I'm going to add another piece to it. But these two pieces are going to overlap a little bit. Because I want mine right on the edge. And I am going to take this away and come back to my grid paper, even though it's a little bit more difficult for you to see, to help me line these up. And I'm just adding a little bit of space in between. The hardest part is getting the backing off of the tear and tape. And when that happens, the paper piercing tool can come in really handy to get underneath that. And I have another one that I'm going to have some overlap with my tear and tape. You can tear it or you can cut it. I kind of like cutting it. When I was trying to decide what size strips I wanted to do, first I considered my length, and then I cut them, and I kind of set it up so this one would be in the middle. And I've given myself 1/8 of an inch space between them. You can certainly measure it, or you can just be random about it. If you're new to me and you've just recently found me, you can find me on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and I have a website all under the title of Winged Horse Designs. Find my mouse here. You can find everything with the Winged Horse Designs name, whether it be my Facebook, my YouTube, my Instagram, or my website. Oh, I wanted to add another piece. That's the other, you notice how easy it was to get it back off the window sheet. So when you first put it on there, it doesn't stick right away real hard. So it is easier to get it off right away until it's been on there a bit. I also have other videos out there using different techniques. There's a link in the description to other techniques, just a playlist of other techniques. And I also have a link to a playlist of fun folds if you're into fun folds. And all that's in the description, or in the description, you'll find links to those. You'll also find a lot of other fun links. You'll find links to my Facebook and Instagram, YouTube, whatever you happen to be watching on. So this one, I'm actually going to turn it upside down since I went this way and I'm right-handed. I'm going to line this one up right on the edge like I did the other one. And so I have my strips, and now I can do my die cutting with those. I am actually going to kind of make this as straight as I possibly can. So I'm going to come an inch in on the bottom. So I'm just going to make a little tick mark and an inch in on my top. And then I'm going to line this die up that way. So I'm just going to line this edge because the die isn't a perfect symmetrical, and I want to make sure that I don't cut myself a little too short on one end or the other. So that's why I used a little pencil tick mark. And this will give us that curve. And we might as well cut this out at the same time. So if you're enjoying this, please do like, comment, and share. I love reading the comments that different people have, different ideas you may have of something I could do or something you would like to see. All right, I'm going to move all this out of the way to make room for my die cutting machine and bring that in. And whatever sandwich you need for your particular die cutting machine works fine. I'm going to slide this in, and see, I also have room for my happy birthday. I can actually cut both of these out at the same time. Now, because this one with the leaves on it is a little intricate, I want to make sure that I get all the way through that pretty paper and the window sheet. So I'm going to go back and forth about 3 times. Okay, it looks like I did pretty good on that piece. Now we'll work with this one. So as you can see, it's still attached because it's meant to have this border with the leaves on it. So I'm just going to come in with my scissors, and where those leaves would be, I'm just going to go ahead and cut from one piece up to the next piece. And it's probably hard for you to see on camera. It's actually a little bit hard for me to see here as well, because the clouds and the haze keep changing the lighting in here. But we're just kind of coming up right along the edge of this stitching. It's kind of hard to see. Hold still. There's a little stitching here. We're just kind of following that. I keep saying we. There's no one else here but me. I'm kind of following that. And that was an easier way for me to get that curve that I want for this piece. So I'll bring back in all my card pieces here. And like I said, just cut this so that I didn't even need it quite as much. I did 2.5 inches. I forgot to mention that my window sheet was 2.5 inches by 5.5 inches. You just need it to be slightly larger than what you're going to cut out with these strips. So I'm going to go ahead and glue the inside in. I think this one's empty. Okay, I'm going to put dimensionals on the back of these. I'm actually going to put my dimensionals behind the designer series paper so that I can hide it. Because it's going on the edge of the card, I'm going to be sure to put quite a few along the edge. These happen to be the mini dimensionals, so it is going to be quite a few. I'm going to skip this real thin strip because it happens to be just about the same size as this little dimensional. And this way I don't have to be quite as accurate about where I put the dimensionals so that it doesn't show through. So I'll just skip that little piece because it's really not going to matter. But you notice along this left edge of the card, I'm really putting quite a few dimensionals there. And I'm probably doing far more dimensionals than what I need. There we go. And some on our happy birthday. This card is not going to come apart, that's for sure. And then I'm just going to line this up right along the edge. So we have our floating strip panel there. And I'm going to go ahead and just put this at an angle rather than try to put it straight, because sometimes it's fun just to do an angle. And bring in some sparkly gems. And I really like this champagne color. So I'll put one there to highlight that happy birthday. And just a couple more down here. And there you have a fun, simple card doing the floating strips. If you stuck through to the end, thank you very much for sticking through to the end. Remember, there's a lot of fun links in the description to different things that I do. And there's also definitely links to more fun techniques and fun folds as well. And I hope you'll come back, and I hope you'll leave me some fun comments. So have a wonderful weekend, everyone. I will be back on Monday morning with a live presentation at 10 a.m. Central Time. Happy trails.